beautiful little canyon to drive up. Have you ever felt like the more you try to control something, the more difficult it becomes? Has anybody ever told you to get a grip? Get a grip, Echelon. Sometimes I'll say it to myself. I spent a major part of my life trying to control everything. Understandably so. It's a survival tactic, and it does help you survive. Growing up homeless, trying to control the outcomes, to do things to make sure I could eat. There was a time I got stuck in a rainstorm on the East Coast. It was December. It was probably 35 degrees out in Virginia, and the rain was cold. It was wet. It wasn't snow or hail. It was rain coming down in a deluge. And I was far away from my normal sleeping spots. I had a McDonald's playpen I used to break into to sleep, and on one end of my neighborhood, and on the other end of my neighborhood was a dugout, elementary school dugout at the back end of a baseball field. It was really private, and it was covered, and so there were like places to escape the rain if I was prepared, but found myself across town. I wasn't homeless alone. If you haven't caught on to the trend yet, Zero Cool was there in the foster system with me, and he was homeless at the time as well. And so we were standing near our old middle school from back when we used to go there. We were just like there it was like 10 o'clock at night, not sure why we were there. And it starts dumping. So we start thinking of a solution, and my old best friend, his grandparents had a house near the school that he used to go to after school. And I've stayed the night there before. I was familiar with the layout and the terrain and the secret way in and out of the backyard. So we go. I mean, it's really cold. I can't really put into words that level of freezing when you have no jacket and it's 30 degrees out and raining. And you're a skinny, malnourished kid. So we shiver on over, tight-bodied and determined. Go through the secret. Damn, you see that little swerve? Go through the secret little route through the backyard. I knew the locks on the window were the same as my old house, and I learned how to shimmy those locks open with a butter knife from locking myself out of my house as a kid. And so we knew with a pocket knife we could get into that garage. And long story short, we shimmy the window unlocked, crawl in, sleep for the night, get up at daybreak and sneak out the back before anybody knew we were there. And so that's control. We controlled the situation. And that's survival. And that's victim shit. I dealt with the illusion of control for a long, long time with a death grip. I death gripped my way through the education system. Getting through high school was a miracle in and of itself. In fact, I didn't even get to graduate because of that other story I told you guys about jail. But I at least made it to my senior year before I had to get my GED. And then college was another miracle. And I death gripped it. I tried to control the situation. I tried to take 6 solids, somehow thinking that the harder I tried, like hard work equals success, hard work generates an outcome, and somehow the universe would know that by me gripping really hard to this outcome of graduation and taking 6 solids, which is just unnecessary, the amount of homework and studying and finals week. It's rough when you have that many classes. And so then, I do graduate, and so I'm learning that control and death gripping works, not realizing that's why I'm so burned out. That's why life is such a battle, and why I'm in this war with the world and with myself. Start my first business, micromanage every detail of it, just once again a death grip. I mean, the business couldn't breathe. I was gripping it so hard. I tricked myself that this control and this grip on things was resilience. I really believed that was drive and that was resilience. Not a lot of people made it out of where I came from. There's something special that I was utilizing, and it's part of these conversations. A lot of it was an introspective look on myself. I'm going over a lot of the hard lessons I learned, and we'll get into some of the positive stuff I learned as well, but this quote resilience, I couldn't have been further from the truth. So yeah, in this broad overview, I'm just fighting my way through life. And that death grip shows up. It shows up as anxiety, stress, depression. Goes back to the previous conversation about numbness and disconnection. Everything, all of that was from the sheer exhaustion of the illusion of control and this false sense of resilience and what I thought was strength. Really, I was a coward. And not a coward like the lion on Wizard of Oz. I stood my ground. I've never ran from conflict, any type. But I was afraid that I wasn't gonna make it in life, and I was clawing and fighting and gripping to get through. At its peak, the anxiety was so bad. I remember driving my car around town, and the anxiety had me like in a panic because I couldn't get rid of it. And it just, it's like Chinese torture. It just slowly wears you down. A day or two of anxiety is okay. A situation arises, it gave you some anxiety, it goes away. But I had anxiety for 10 years or more. I would have these intrusive thoughts to swerve into a wall or hit a tree. I needed something to shake that anxiety out of my system. Control is real, then obviously it won't have those negative side effects. So if you really want to step back from your life and take a look at it, if you're having depression, if you're having anxiety, if there's things coming up, you're exhausted, you don't have the energy to work, ask yourself what you're gripping. What are you hanging on to? What illusion of control do you actually think you have? And then ask yourself if that's really strength. Oh, you're so driven. You're so passionate. All the taglines I used to love to convince myself. Acknowledging that control is an illusion and allowing yourself to soften that grip and allow your life to flow downstream. That's the trick. And it's easier said than done, I know. And that's why I share my experiences, because this conversation is not about me. This ride is for you. I don't have to continually express my life to myself. I'm doing that for you. And so, but if you could learn it just a little bit faster than I learned it, and your life could start getting better just a little bit sooner, how amazing would that be? That would make me feel so happy. And that's what I'm here for, is to help you feel happy. So back to that introspective look at yourself. Where are you gripping now that you've had a few minutes to think about it? Like, let's visualize this. Where are you gripping so tight? Where is this illusion of control taking you? And how is it showing up in your life? Boy, that's a lot of traffic. I'm going to pause for a second and figure this out. So now that we understand that you're only hurting yourself trying to grip everything and control and hang on so tight, what would it feel like to loosen that grip? Put an exhale on all of that control and all that tightness. We keep coming back to acceptance. Acceptance is real strength. Not giving up. What you don't understand is that by trying to control the outcome of everything, you're hindering the outcome from truly blossoming. In my first business, when I was controlling everything, none of my employees grew. For 3 years, we stayed stagnant. I was managing sales, but then taking over the sales calls, and then managing the paperwork, and contacting the processing department, and helping with the processing, and I had my hand in everything. And so nobody grew, because I was always there to do it better. I never trusted them. And it wasn't until I finally realized I couldn't do it. I didn't have the energy to keep wearing myself down. And if I didn't trust these people, then why did I hire them? So I finally just stopped babysitting all of it, stopped micromanaging it. I just let it be, decided to flow downstream. And within 6 months, the business had blown up. The employees were happier. They were excited. They were going out with each other to happy hours. Everybody was making money. I wasn't working as much. I didn't have to prove anything. Just let it flow. So that's really today's lesson, is just control is an illusion. We're gripping too tight. Loosen that grip. Go with the flow. And enjoy this beautiful ride. This road's always busy. Professional rider on a closed course, don't try this at home.